In today's live training, we're going to be finding and searching for which agencies buy the most of the good or service that our government contracting business has to offer, what we are selling. What's going on, guys? Derek here, and thanks for hanging out with me today on another live training here on, I guess, what's coming our live Fridays, right? So as I mentioned, we will be spending a lot of time over with the website usaspending.gov today. I probably will bounce over a few times to beta.sam as well to do some examples depending on where the training goes today, but we will be using USA Spending as the demonstration in the live tool and resource to demonstrate how are you going to actually find those agencies, federal agencies in particular, that are buying the most of what it is you're trying to sell, you're trying to offer, whether you're just getting started or you're already in the space and you're having trouble finding the right agency for you. Guys, I always talk about coming from a place of targeting agencies, primarily 3 to 5 agencies. And so why would you not start that process with the agencies that buy the most, right? In terms of dollars, like this isn't theoretical. Today, we're going to be looking at actual dollars spent over time. You're going to be able to see charts. You're going to be able to see a map. You're going to be able to see graphs, and you're going to be able to see a long list of agencies with like a bar graph and dollars associated with it in terms of what's being spent. Now, that's all dependent on the NAICS code. So the NAICS code is going to be the variable that we're using, just like we did last week. We'll be using NAICS code again as a variable to basically discern one good or service from another. As we know, that's primarily what the government uses. There are other things you could use for this example. I'll try and show you also like PSC codes, for example, and probably keywords, but NAICS code is probably what you're most familiar with. So we will be leaning into that. So I'll go ahead and say hi to the chat. Hello, everybody. Momentum, what's going on? Andy, Ryan, looks like you guys are having a convo leading up to the live today. Love to see that. Hope everybody's had a great week here. Thoughts going out to Texas because they got hit with a cold snap over here in Alabama. We went down to like 20 degrees. So that was not fun, but nothing at all like what they experienced. So hopefully I checked the weather for like San Antonio, and they're supposed to be back up into the 60s, hopefully maybe even the 70s into next week. So sending some good thoughts to those guys. But other than that, I hope you guys had a great weekend. What's going on, Dwayne Washington? Hello, Cynthia. Hello, W. Lynn. Just starting the Fed contractor process. This is a jump start. Absolutely. Whether, like I said, you're just getting started or you've been doing this for a little while and you haven't gone through this example, if you can't come to me and say, hey, Derek, the VA is my agency, or the Army is my agency, or maybe the Department of Transportation or Homeland Security, like whatever. And if you tell me that, you need to be able to back into why that is your agency. It should probably fall within the confines of what we're talking about today, which is agency spend. So, hey, Lalo, what's going on? If you don't already know how to use this tool, I have showed it a little bit. I actually do show it in one of my free courses as well. But just more and more, I get the feeling that you guys don't know how to do this. And so I figure it doesn't hurt, even if you've already seen this once before, maybe. I know a lot of you probably haven't seen it at all, though. It wouldn't hurt to go through this practice example. So I will be using NAICS codes. So now is probably a good time to start putting NAICS codes in the chat. If you want me to run a live example for your NAICS code and tell you which, or actually just show you and show everybody here live, kind of what's the top 3 or the top 5 agencies that are buying the most of what your business is trying to sell. So again, if you want that, put the NAICS code in the chat. I will be using those as a priority. And then if I run out, I don't have any, then I will use my own NAICS codes to fill the gap. So that's really what we're going to be focused on today. As I said, there's a few other tools also within this. Since I'm already going to be in USA Spending, I'll probably take a break around halfway through to show you a couple of those other features. And then we'll bounce back and do some more NAICS codes, maybe hop over to beta.sam or something. And that's pretty much what the layout will be today. So yeah. And also remember last week in beta.sam, or just anytime you're searching for NAICS code, it may not always have the best search results. just because NAICS codes are different and the government uses more, some NAICS codes more than others. So we'll run all of them, and some of them may not have the best of searches, or maybe they'll all be winners today. We had a few that weren't so great last week, and that's just because that's just the way NAICS codes work and how the government utilizes them. So I think we'll get started here in just a second. Hope you guys got big plans for the weekend here. I hope you had a happy Valentine's Day. I think probably the last thing I have to share with you before we get started is we got another interview. So we're just rolling with the interviews. Monday morning, another interview, something for you to look forward to over the weekend. This is not with contracting. This interview is with one of our own. This is with a guy who's been in our community for quite a while. And I was really, really happy to get the interview with him. And I'm really happy to be able to share and let him tell his story on Monday when I upload the interview. I already recorded it and edited it, so it's all ready to go. But it's a guy who got started out. He was self-employed for a while, but he got started in real estate, flipping. He was a mortgage broker. Then he got into flipping houses, making improvements and then selling them. And he ended up getting his GC, his general contractor license. Then after a while, and he was also a service-disabled vet, you should also know. And then his buddy kind of mentioned to him a few years later down the road or whatever, why don't you get into government contracting? So long story short, Ron ended up getting into government contracting, and since last year has won several contracts. I'm talking $1 million contracts, and then maybe even multi-million-dollar contracts with all the task orders that he's winning. So we've got a real humble story coming for you, a humble interview coming on Monday, from real estate house flipping to government construction. I'm talking VA, stuff like that. Successful GovCon business. So stay tuned for that. I want to let you guys know that we got another great interview coming for you on Monday. So let me see how many times I can clear my throat, and then we can get to it. So thanks for being here, you guys. And if you missed it, if you want me to run your NAICS code, now is a good time to put your NAICS code in the chat. We've already got some folks in the chat listing those, so that's great. I will be using those to pull. So we're going to go to USA Spending. So I'm in Google, USA Spending. You can do this with me live, or you can do this if you're watching on replay. What's up, team replay? Let me know in the chat if you're watching on replay. Or you're going to sit back, watch, and enjoy the show. So we're at USA Spending. This is a website that tracks the spending, right? It's not necessarily for us government contractors, but it's definitely a tool that us government contractors can use. And there's a number of, you can see, different ways to slice the pie, slice the data. Today, though, we're focused on one thing. We're going to award search and advanced search. So that's, you can play around with all this other stuff, or maybe I will later if we have time. But we're going to go to advanced search under the award search. You may have seen this, you may have not. Doesn't hurt to do some more examples, though, either way. Once that gets pulled up, you're going to see this bit of a layout. It's going to look kind of familiar to like beta.sam or whatever. You've got your filters on the left, and then you have your search results here in the middle. Right now, we have no search results. Obviously, we haven't selected any criteria. It allows you to select all the years. So I think today I'll probably just be using that with all of our examples. And just like beta.sam, we have all of these different filters. And again, play around with it as you want. We're doing NAICS codes. It's kind of the most group-friendly thing that I can think of to do. So let me, you know what? I had Tony who emailed me a NAICS code. So I'm going to start with Tony's 15550 for legal services. And then I'm going to take it from the top from the chat after this. So we're going to use NAICS code 15550, and this is for legal services. At least this is what Tony said, unless I wrote it down wrong. Legal services NAICS code. Tony, if you're live, I'm not sure if you're live or if you're watching, but this NAICS code does not seem to be pulling something up. So, and guys, this table SBA NAICS, it's always a great fallback. Yeah, it's not pulling up anything, guys. So I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen for just a second, and I'll check my email to make sure I didn't. Yeah, 15550 legal services. Yeah, Tony, I don't know if you're live, but that doesn't seem to be an actual NAICS code. At least that's pulling up. So I'm not sure. So I feel bad because I wanted to do that one. 15550. Yeah. So okay, we'll just move on for now. And I will go to the chat and we'll see what we have in the chat. So first up, we have Cynthia Carson. Thanks for sharing. We have 561720. 561720. Janitorial services. All right, guys. So we're talking janitorial. This one's for Cynthia. So when you put that in, you select all the years. Again, we're using USA spending and we're not doing any other filters. It's going to automatically pull up all this data. And don't worry, we're not going to geek out on this data. But this is, as you can see, a list of awards for this NAICS code. It gives you the company name, the start date, the end date of the contract, supposedly, even the award number. So that's all really good information, but that's not what we're looking for today. I want agency names, right? I want to see VA. I want to see Army. I want to see DOT. I want to see whatever, because this doesn't mean much to me right now. So as you can see, there are these tabs down here to change this data. Not messing with it. Instead, come up here. Instead of going to table, we're going to jump all the way over to categories. So once you jump over to categories, now we see something interesting. Now I see something that I can actually get my head wrapped around without going cross-eyed, right? Let me zoom in a little bit for you guys. So Cynthia and anybody else who's in janitorial and they're using this 561720 NAICS code, isn't this interesting? The Department of Defense, this is for all these years, so just remember, has bought $10.4 billion of janitorial services. It's in a far contrast to number 2 and number 3, right? So if you're looking to do janitorial services, guys, and you're saying, I wonder who buys that? Who should I market to? What bids should I give a high priority to, right? Well, I think the DoD would probably be a really, really damn good place to start because it's 10.4 billion. And hey, let's turn these years off. I don't know if this is going to change this or not. Yeah, I don't think that. Yeah, did it? Okay, yeah, it did. So when you take these years off, even though the chart didn't really look different, the numbers did change. So we went from 10.4 billion to 1.2 billion. So just from 2020 and 2021, really, the last a little over a year, still the DoD has bought 1.2 billion janitorial services under this NAICS code. Okay, and then number 2, GSA. Go figures, you fooled me. Like I didn't know. I could have maybe had them in the top 5 guess, but now I know for sure. If I'm having a conversation, a business conversation, a business partner, and I'm telling somebody to go DoD and to go GSA, I'm going to have this with me, right? It's kind of irrefutable. It's kind of hard to go against. Number 3, DHS, Homeland Security. Number 4, the VA. And number 5, DOT, the Department of Transportation. So if I were to, Cynthia, give you a top 5 list, just using this data only, now, of course, you have to take other things into account also, like, low-hanging fruit. Where are you located? Do you already have relationships? Have you had a contract in the past? All these variables can affect this too. But if we're just looking at this in a vacuum, guys, DOD, GSA, DHS, VA, and DOT, these top 5 agencies are where Cynthia should absolutely consider. At least the top 3, right? DHS, GSA, and DOD. At least the top 3, because they are buying the most compared to all of these other agencies. Why go down to the USDA if you could, go up to the GSA, who's buying infinitely more. I mean, USDA only bought 30 million. That might be like less than 20 contracts, versus at least 422 million with GSA. So I think you guys kind of get the point with this. I don't want to elaborate it too much. These examples, they're all going to be like this. It's going to be quick feedback. So I just wanted to give you this explanation up front, because I'm not going to re-explain this every NAICS code that we run against, right? So if this makes sense, if this is helpful, let me know in the chat. I mean, it's very clear. The data is very clear. And it's either like this or you don't. And if you're just going to beta.sam and you're just going to search results and you're chasing everything, maybe add this to your idea of doing a little bit of research first, instead of just saying, hey, well, this agency posted something yesterday. Well, here I got a couple things to say about that. Let me come to this. There you go. So I got a couple things to say. So what happens if you win a contract, or say you're pursuing contracts in an unfocused way, and you're not doing what we're practicing today in today's live training and kind of what I preach and what I suggest? What happens if you don't do that? Well, what happens to the long-term, value of your business, the long-term organic growth potential of your business? Cynthia, you're so welcome. Let me take you off the screen here. Perfect. You're so welcome. And guys, I'll be going through a lot of your NAICS codes in just a second. It'll be a lot faster. But what happens if you don't do this, right? And say you even win a contract. I'm talking long-term of your GovCon business, 3 to 5 years. And that's not even super long. But what happens, right? 1 to 3 years even for some of you. What happens is, if you win that contract, okay, what happens after you win the contract is we're supposed to go into like a farmer mode, right? Hunting is going out and being, very aggressive, doing some of the directly related things to win the contract, i.e. bidding, i.e. relationships, right? So if you do that at an agency that's not buying a lot of what you have to sell, and say you happen to win a contract there, that's good. That's great. It's past performance, it's cash flow, it's a lot of things. But what is the opportunity there in the future? They may only do a contract like this once every 5 years, once every 8 years or something like that, because yeah, they buy it, but maybe they're like the DOA here and it's only like 30 million. They're not buying 400 million, or they're not buying 1.2 billion or 400 billion. So your long-term growth potential now has been unfocused to an agency that's not really doing a lot for you in the long term, versus say it was at the DoD or at the GSA, you focused and you spent some time, say you spent 6 months, 9 months, a year and a half, whatever, and you win one, then you have that contract. Then you can go inside the agency, the base, the contracting officers, the small business office, the OSTABU, and say, hey, janitorial, hold up a big old sign that says, janitorial to your, I don't know, can you even see that? There you go. Yeah. You can wave that sign around, and people are going to care, because they're going to say, we buy a lot of janitorial. We buy 400 million. We buy 1.2 billion. You do janitorial? Well, hey, we've got an RFP coming up. Hey, I've got a statement of work for you to look at, right? So it's the same amount of effort, but two very different sets of results if you go to an agency, that's not buying a lot versus an agency that does buy a lot. You can win a contract in either place, but long-term, your farming, business development activities, your marketing strategy, it's just going to kind of fall short. So I encourage you to think long-term instead of just, again, don't chase everything. And this is one of the reasons why it pays off. Your synergy, your business development activities will build on themselves if you start from the right place, because once you got your foot in the door, now there's a lot of other people that, there's a reason to get the foot in the door, right? You want to get your foot in the door if there's a lot of other, customers, contracting officers, small business office, whatever, folks that have contracts, that are talking about contracts. versus getting your foot in the door at an agency and then you open the door and there's just like nothing. It's just crickets. So you got the contract, but then after that, you just got to pack up and go home because there's nothing else there for you. So I hope you get that point. A little bit of my soapbox, and the quote that I want to share with you today is from Jay Abraham, a very well-known business consultant, and he talks about the definition of marketing, and it very much relates to what we're talking about: finding the agencies that buy the most of what you're trying to sell. Right? His definition of marketing is not getting an army to march for you, not like assembling an army of people who want to buy whatever it is that you have to sell, right? It's not getting a group of people outside and then going to them and saying, hey, does anybody want to buy popsicles? No, that's not marketing. According to Jay Abraham, and I agree with him, marketing is finding an army that's already marching for the thing that you have to offer and then getting in front of them and making them an offer. I hope that makes, a pretty clear distinction. Maybe these people are already buying popsicles, or they bought popsicles in the past, or, they're sweating their butt off and it's in the middle of the summer and you're going to say, hey, I'm selling popsicles. Like, yeah, they're going to have a lot higher chance of buying a popsicle from you versus just getting a bunch of people together that are random, right? Chasing everything and then saying, okay, you're all here. You want to buy a popsicle? Like, dude, you're wasting my time. Get out of here. I don't buy popsicles. I buy grilled cheese sandwiches, And so many of you kind of approach whatever customer, whatever agency you can, and, just try and sell popsicles and not know if they sell grilled cheese sandwiches. Probably a horrible example, horrible analogy. I definitely wouldn't want to eat a grilled cheese sandwich and a popsicle at the same time. That sounds absolutely disgusting. But I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the chat if that makes sense, if that resonates with you, right? You're not trying to find an army, or you're not trying to create an army to march for you. You're trying to find an army, people that are already interested in the thing, and they've shown they're interested because they've already voted with their dollar in the past. They've already spent money on this thing, right? So yeah, Fred, absolutely. You have to do your research. Exactly. Like, that's what this is. And what we're doing is we're finding people who have bought the most popsicles in the past, because you know what? They have a pretty high likelihood that they're going to buy more in the future. And if your business sells popsicles, then you're in the right place. Okay. That's all this is. So I thought that was a very appropriate quote for today. But yeah, let's get back to NAICS codes now. See what else we got going on. So W Lynn 711510. 711510. All right, let's see what we got. I don't know what that is. And I'm going to go back to selecting all fiscal years, take out this NAICS code 711510. Independent Lynn, you picked a interesting one. Independent artists, writers, and performers. I don't know if I've even ever looked at this NAICS code. But let's see. Hopefully we have some stuff. This is, let me see. I'm always triple checking my NAICS codes here. All right, that looks better. Okay, because sometimes these NAICS codes, they will stack. Here it is. For your training guys, pay attention here. If you ran a previous example, it will stay in here, and then it will start adding the new ones to it. It won't just replace them out. So for your training, make sure you clear this out. So now we have, we just have W Lynn's 711510 NAICS code in here. But you know what? Like, hey, independent artists, writers, and performers. I'm like, man, there's probably not going to be anything under this, right? I mean, I think that's probably what a lot of us would think. But let's run through the process. Let's see what the data has to say. DOD, 642 million, and that's for all years since 2008. If I change that to, let's see how easily this updates. It doesn't update the best, guys. That's the one thing that I will say. Okay, so then for the last year, it was 112 million. So, I always take it down to the last 12, 14 months also, just to see how relevant this is. Make sure they're still buying it recently. 112 million, Department of Defense by far. But number 2, 15 million is this U.S. Agency for Global Media. Honestly, I've never even heard of this. So I think this is good information. And then number 3, we have GSA, and then we have the Department of Interior, but we're getting extremely small, like 810,000. That could have been one contract. So the Department of Interior is number 4, and they could have issued one contract for $810,000. And then we have the Smithsonian Institution, 561,000. So those are incredibly small. At least, I would probably say stick to these top 3. Lynn, I would say DoD for sure, 112 million. This interesting U.S. Agency for Global Media, never heard of them, 15 million though. So they are buying something worth looking into. And then also maybe the GSA. I wouldn't go probably too much deeper than this because we're looking at probably singular contracts based on the smallness of the dollar spend. So yeah, that was a fun one. I've never heard of this agency, and I've never used this NAICS code. So good one. Let's see what else we got. Kenyon Foster. Let me get my searches going. All right, so we got 621-621340. All right. All fiscal years. So this is kind of interesting feedback. DoD, guys, the reason why so many people want to do business with, the Army or the Air Force or the Navy, essentially the DoD, sub-agencies that comprise the DoD, is because they buy the most of everything. There's DoD and then there's non-DoD agencies. DoD buys pretty much the most of everything. So I recommend to most of you, you got to consider Army, Air Force, and Navy. Consider that with your low-hanging fruit. Where is your geography? What do you have around you? And then, what type of industry are you going into? Run those against the DoD, and you'll probably have a good chance at finding a match. So for this NAICS code for Kenyon, DoD number 1, 700 million. Department of the Interior actually is number 2, Kenyon. So DOI might be good for you, 43 million. We have the VA here, not too far back, 31 million. And then Health and Human Services for 28 million. What was this? Healthcare and Social Assistance. That's what this next code is for. Office of Physical, Occupational, Speech Therapists, Audiologists, and then the larger prefix, which is the Office of Other Healthcare Practitioners. So that's what this next code is, guys. Healthcare, physicians, things like that. So Kenyon DoD, DOI, VA, and Health and Human Services by far. All the rest of these are just tiny. So it looks like you got a top 4. I would spend my time looking for bids, trying to market to these agencies. I don't know why you would go anywhere else. So good. Dwayne, we have Dwayne next, 541-519. 541-519. Take out that old one. That's what I was talking about. Okay, so we got Dwayne's is a little bit more interesting here because we've got some meat to work with. This code is for, any of the, the 5.4s are huge. Professional, scientific, and technical services. It's one of my more favorite codes, but 541-519 is one of those IT/computer type NAICS codes. So we're really looking at IT related contracts here with the 541-519. Again, DoD number 1, 66 billion, absolutely huge, knocks it out of the park. The VA though, kind of surprising to me, is number 2. That's 14 billion. Homeland Security, 13 billion. The Treasury, 11. Health and Human Services is 11. But these other agencies, they're pretty good too. Like they're buying in the billions. So really, Dwayne, you've got like a top 10 list here, man, because anything that's in the billions, I mean, it's worth it. So I would take this top 10 list, and obviously this NAICS code, you're probably using several others, especially for IT. But if this is your primary, this is really where you want to, spend your efforts. Take this top 10 list in conjunction with maybe some other variables, like any low-hanging fruit, any contracts you may have won in the past, any relationships you may have, any agencies that you have closely located around you. Let that also be a factor, because honestly, these are all pretty good agencies. They're not like the others where it was like 3 or 4 and then it just trailed off. All of these are extremely competitive and rich type contracts. I mean, it's 2021 and it's an IT NAICS code, so I guess we really cannot be too surprised by that. Lots of IT is being bought, especially like, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cyber, things like this is really on the forefront. The government's buying so much stuff like that. I really do see a lot of it. So yeah, thank you for that, Dwayne. So let's check in the chat here, guys. Cool. All right. Well, I'll keep going with these. Hopefully this is, I'm hoping that this is helping you. Looks like we got Pam next. Cool. Pam gave us a few to search from, so we'll see what this first one looks like. 238990. Sounds interesting. This is for all other specialty trade contractors, but this is primarily a construction NAICS code for Pam. Let's see what we got. All right. So we're really looking at one thing's really sticking out to me. Hopefully you can guess what that is. DOD is 10 billion, 10.5 billion. The rest of these, well, so the number 2, DOI, Department of the Interior, is 500 million, so $500 million. Can't really, say too much about that being bad. Homeland Security, 275, so $250 million here. VA's good. Department of State, and that's what I would say. For any construction contracts, of course, DOD is going to be huge. Army's going to be huge. Air Force 2, National Guard is pretty significant, sub-agency of the Army. The VA is also pretty significant when it comes to construction. Department of State is good. I don't know that much about the Department of Interior, to be honest. I never did any contracts or work with them, but they're showing up in a lot. They're showing up highly ranked in a lot of our searches today. So, anybody who it's a match for, I would definitely consider adding that to your list. Homeland Security, though, too, of course. So Pam, I would kind of look at these. Yeah, GSA is good. NASA is good. DOJ is not so much. Since a lot of these are similar, I would give you the same advice, Pam, that I gave to Dwayne, which is, consider this maybe a top 10s list, with the DOD obviously getting the primary focus, the primary priority. That's what I was trying to say. But these others, they're still really good. So especially with construction, it's just that type of industry. You do have to take geography into place. You have to take NAICS or MATOCs into place, multiple award task order contracts, because sometimes those contracts only open up every one out of 5 or 1 out of 10 years. And so you want to get on a MATOC while you can. So there's, actually that leads into, our interview, as I mentioned earlier, that we're doing with Ron on Monday. Guys, we got another great interview with Ron, construction success story from house flipping to doing his own construction GovCon business. And part of how he did that was through getting on MATOCs. So we'll talk a lot more about that in the interview. But a lot of construction strategy is different than, say, IT strategy and things like that. So thanks for that, Pam. LaShawn Duncan, building inspection, 541350. And I think probably one of the main takeaways from this live training is, hey, if you're doing targeting the DoD, it's probably a good start, right? Because DoD is like #1 in all of these. So Everything else is supplemental to the DoD. Of course, depending on your own other variables like we talked about too. So for LaShawn Duncan, we have, and again, what is this next code? Professional, scientific, and technical services, but building inspection is what we're talking about here. So take a look at this. Great example. DoD is not number one. The DoD got beat by, let me count my commas here. Yeah, this is still $1 billion. So for building inspection services, LaShawn Duncan, DHS, Homeland Security, has like 5 times the amount of the DoD. So you got to be spending a lot of time marketing and setting search filters up in beta.sam for DHS. You should be watching everything coming out of DHS by far, because you know if there's an agency that's beating the pants off of the DoD, that you should definitely pay attention to that, right? So that's kind of unique and new. So I'm glad we got to see DoD taking the number 2 spot for this next code. Number 3, we have the Department of State. Number 4, we have the VA. Number 5, we have Housing and Urban Development. So I would say those are probably a good top 5 for you. LaShawn, we have DHS, DoD, DOS, the VA, and Housing and Urban Development. So that's pretty cool. It's cool to see that the DoD is not the number 1 necessarily in every single category. Anthony, what do we got here? 332993. And so guys, like, you know, I know you're watching me do this. We're taking a lot of different NAICS codes. You should be doing this for yourself, right? Because you guys are going to have more than one NAICS code. Okay. I know you have more than one NAICS code on your CAPE statement. I know you have more than one NAICS code in your SAM profile. So you need to run this example for each of your NAICS codes. Maybe list the top 3, the top 5. Here, let me switch back. List the top 3 or the top 5 codes for each agency, and then see where you have overlap, right? And so if you're seeing DoD hit, boom, 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 for each of your main, say, 5 NAICS codes, then that's probably going to be an overwhelming agency that you definitely want to consider, versus maybe one agency only shows up under one NAICS code and then you don't see it under the 4 other codes. Then maybe it's, you know, lower on the list until you go through the rest of them. And then you basically give priority to where you're seeing the most abundance across your code. And that's how you develop your 3 to 5 primaries. So again, I'm doing, you know, kind of one-off examples here, but you all need to be doing this because I know you all have more than one code. So don't just take one code and go for it, right? So Anthony, we have manufacturing, and this is for ammunitions manufacturing. All right. I don't know why I said all right like that. Ammo, war, not good. It says except small arms. So I'm guessing only big arms. I don't know. But we've got 332993. Let's see what we got going on here. Update this search. Dang. So, oh, sorry. I'm not sharing my screen. If only you could see what I see. All right. So this is for Anthony, 332993. Ammunition. I mean, I guess we all could have guessed this, right? Almost 41 billion, Department of Defense. Come on, Anthony, man. You could have guessed it was DoD, right? Ammunitions. It would be kind of weird seeing the Department of Transportation or the Department of Agriculture buying ammunitions. So yeah, without a doubt, Army, Air Force, Navy, any DoD agency, Anthony, it goes without saying, right? And then Homeland Security. You know, we need a little bit of ammo to protect ourselves here in this great country too, right? So they're buying $1 billion. Department of State, they bought a little bit, but I would really I would focus on DoD. I would just keep it simple. Anthony, I would just go all in, right? You know, we all saw War Dogs, you know, it's the Army. A lot of it's the Army. Air Force and Navy too. But actually, guys, I meant to show this to you, but here's a great additional. Okay, now we're going to get into an additional way to look at this. I promised you we would get into some other stuff, so now's probably a good time to do that. We'll do that with Anthony's example. We're looking at the overall agencies, but you can also look at sub-agencies. So again, I was looking at DoD and I'm like, well, I kind of want to know, well, is it the Army? Is it the Air Force? Is it the Navy? Because they're all very different. I mean, I know they're DoD, but so what? Like if I'm going to market, if I'm going to bid, I need to know specifics. I need to know details, right? DoD is one of those monster agencies where you need more details. So if you click over here to sub-agencies, then it breaks it down for you. So it's a very, very quick answer to my question. Number one is the Army. So of the, however much it was, 40 billion that the DoD is buying, 24 billion of it comes from the Army. So more than half. Okay, Anthony, so more than half of ammunition buys is from the Army. And then another 13 billion is from the Air Force. Okay, maybe we didn't know that. Maybe it could have been the Navy. We didn't know. So that's 13 billion. And then the Navy's only 3. So if you're looking at 24, 13, and 3, then I'm probably focusing on those top 2. So we went from DoD to saying, okay, you got my attention, to now, okay, I really know this means Army and Air Force. So if I'm trying to get ammunition contracts, I'm spending my time at these 2 sub-agencies. So again, there's agencies and then there's sub-agencies that, you know, some like the DoD can be split, others can't. In this case, you know, this is what the DoD looks like. So good example to show you how to do that. So it's just the next tab over, and then it really gives you a lot of meaningful data that you can actually, you know, like apply to what you're trying to do. So I think that's pretty helpful. Hopefully you do too. Let me see here. So guys, hope you're doing well. In the chat here, just kind of going through. Yeah, I felt bad that I wasn't able to do that legal services for Tony. The legal services, just the 15550 just didn't pull up with anything. So maybe it was a mistyper or something like that. W. Lynn says, thank you. Didn't even know the site helpful, but isn't it still worthwhile to bid for any of the top 10? Yeah, and Lynn, I think you kind of saw us talking about that probably after your chat came in. Like, yeah, like the top 10 is great, especially in situations like Dwayne Washington, where we looked at his example and it's like, you know what, they're all good. Like they're all buying a lot. But then we also looked at examples where it's like really it's like the top 3 or 4. And then number 5 was like 800,000. Like it's like nothing. And that's why I went into a little bit of my soapbox about where's the long-term opportunity in value for your business? Because, hey, maybe you can win a contract there, but how are you going to win more there after that contract is over or while you're managing that contract and you're trying to market? If there's not additional opportunity there just because it's so small and they really don't buy that much, I would just not even try from the get-go. I would rather try somewhere else so that my efforts can be, you know, organic and build on themselves and be synergy. Because once I win the contract and an agency that is buying a lot, you know, where there already is an Army marching, you know, buying popsicles like we talked about, it's going to be a lot easier to win the second contract and the third contract and the fourth contract. Because believe me, if you already have past performance at the agency that you're trying to win more contracts with, it's going to help you quite a bit. You know, we talk about past performance all the time, and it's not always a must, and it doesn't always have to be at the same agency you're trying to win with. But if you do have it, you know, that's kind of like second, third, and fourth contract type strategy. And I don't really go into that because a lot of you haven't even won your first contract yet. But, you know, my head is there because I've been there. I know what it's like. And some of you probably have too. You have to look at the long-term approach. So that's kind of why I some of them I say 3 or 4, the top 3 or 4, and others like Dwayne's, I say the top 10. For sure. Fred, what's going on, Fred? You got a NAICS code for me? Let's see here. Let me clear this out. Get my screen back. 332710. Machine shops. Interesting. So Fred, you said that the DoD and the Navy is your main target. So DoD/Navy. But we bid on many other NAICS codes that fall within our services. Right. It's like chips. You can't have just one, for sure. And I always say it's like, especially when you're getting started out, whether it's any business, a GovCon business or whatever, like it all starts out with throwing spaghetti at the wall, right? And seeing what sticks. And that's why I say, hey, start with 3 or 5, because whichever agency sticks, say the Army, say, NASA, whatever, then you're going to want to double and triple down at whatever agency, you get that contract at, because it's going to be a lot easier to win more contracts for that agency instead of trying to get your foot in the door at other places. But when we don't have anything, we've got 0, we've got nothing. Well, don't just focus on one agency, because then you're putting all your eggs in one basket. So we don't want to chase everything, but we don't want to do just one. We want to find some balance, and what I find to be realistic, to be able to do all the things that you need to do throughout the period of 12 months, throughout a year, to truly bid and market and develop relationships. 3 to 5 agencies is plenty. Much more than that, you're probably going to be diluting your efforts, and you may be, kind of closer to chasing a lot of things and not getting a lot of traction, because you just don't have enough time to go around. So, yeah, I agree. So it's like chips. You can't just have one, Fred, but you also can't eat them all either, because then you'll never get off the couch. So we have the 332710 NAICS code. This is for machine shops for Fred. Let me make sure this is updated. Looks like it. So DoD is number 1. And then Fred said Navy. So in just a second, I'll hop over to those sub agencies, and we'll see where the Navy stands within the DoD. See if he's on the right track here, or see if another one of those sub agencies like the Army or the Air Force are buying more of this. I don't know. So we'll see in just a second. Besides the DoD, we've got NASA. So NASA finally made it on the board. It's number 2 for machine shops. Number 3 is the Department of State, and then Homeland Security. So I'd say kind of those top 4, but let's go ahead and break down the DoD here for Fred. Okay, so Fred, number 1 is the Navy. So winner, winner, chicken dinner to Fred. Looks like you picked the right sub-agency. You said Navy, and Navy is number 1. So guys, Fred is an example of somebody who's doing this correctly. But as he said, you cannot just have one chip. You can't just do one. So my guess is he's also considering the DLA, another sub-tier agency of the Army now. Huge buyer of parts and pieces, right? If you're talking machine shops, the DLA is going to be right up your alley as well. I'm sure Fred already knows that. But then the Army itself is a solid number 3. So guys, within these top 3 here, Navy, DLA, and big Army, those all wrap up to DoD. So good example. Thanks for that NAICS code, Fred. Thanks for hanging out with us today too. Good to see you. Audrey says this is so informational. Awesome. I'm glad that this is helpful. And W. Lynn also says, really appreciate the guidance. This is helpful also. Hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate the feedback. I'm glad that this is helpful. My man Steven is in the house. What's going on? So let me. Audrey says, so after this, do we need to look into the forecast list? Also for women in disadvantage or sole source, would it be good, right? Yeah, like that's something that I built in actually into the new program that's coming out very soon. But yeah, forecasts, once you kind of get your agency figured out, then you go deeper, right? And like I said, I show how to do this in the new program. But yeah, you go to the forecasts once you know what the agencies are. It's kind of hard to target agencies and look at their forecasts and see what they're buying for the years ahead, the 12 months ahead, if you don't have that targeted agency. So we start here, and then every step is a build on it. So Audrey, you are absolutely right on point. Once you get this information, once you've identified your top 3 to 5 agencies, your next step would be to check out forecasts. And basically what we're doing is we're saying, hey, this is the agency. Let's now get more intel on the agency. One of the primary ways government contractors can get that intel is getting the forecast, the procurement forecast, either from the small business office with the agency, but most of the times you can just get it from the agency website, and they will give you a list of contracts that are coming up. They'll show you the NAICS codes they're buying them under, give you a little bit of a title, a bit of a scope maybe, if it's got a set aside, all those details you would want to see. Doing capture management, making bid, no bid decisions, seeing if it's something that's going to be right for you. You can see all that information in a forecast. So Audrey, you're absolutely right on that. Also for women, disadvantage or sole source would be right. So yeah, they're going to give you that information, whether it's woman-owned, small business set aside, or like an 8A set aside. They'll give you that information also during that inside that forecast. So thanks for bringing that up, Audrey. Great point. Sounds like you're on the right track. Talia Washington says temporary staffing. I would just need a NAICS code. Stacy also says graphic design. I need NAICS codes, guys, because I'm not going to go and try and hunt your NAICS codes. So if you want me to run something, just put it in the chat, but just let me know the NAICS code because I don't know which code you're looking for those. Berwin says, can you take us through the download to bring up the Excel spreadsheet? Let me see. I'm pretty sure we just click download. To be honest, I don't know if I've ever done it in USA spending, but I think we just click download. Which level of data? I want the So this is all you would do, Berwin. So it's just 2 quick steps. I don't know what it's gonna pull up, so I don't want to do it right now. But it says we're preparing the download. This may take a little while. Wait times vary. Once your download is ready, you can use this link to access it. So again, all I did was, let me go back. Doesn't look like it let me go back, but Berwin, good question. Guys, Berwin was asking if we can download this. So it looks like now it's downloading on my computer. It's taking a while, but it gave us a link so that we could access this probably in like an Excel CSV type format. So there's this blue button up here that says download. That's all I did. And then I just clicked award data as a selection, and then it started downloading. So like really that's it. So Berwin, I guess that's how we would go about getting that. Aaron is asking, let me come back here. Looks like Aaron, let's check in the chat here. Notice of termination for convenience. Aaron's asking if I know about that. Do I have any experience? I do. I know what that is. Let me know. You said I received for my 5 services contract. Aaron, if you're saying you received a termination for convenience, that means the government is terminating your contract. That's not a good thing. Usually, there's some conversations leading up to something like that. Usually, there's issues happening on a contract. So if you're saying that most of your contracts were until 2025, but now they did a termination of convenience, it means that they're not happy with the service that they're being provided usually. But this should not be something that you don't know what it is, because Aaron, I would be emailing the contracting officer. Actually, screw that. I would be calling the contracting officer like yesterday. I don't know if you have more context surrounding this. It's not necessarily in the scope of what we're talking about today, but that's a very serious thing that I would definitely have to have a conversation with contracting on. So yeah, sorry to hear that. Hopefully you're on top of it, or that you can get on top of it. Let's see. Wayside says, is trucking a good NAICS code? I believe the DoD does a lot of freight transportation. Wayside, I don't know. Let's take a look. 484230. And this thing is still downloading on my screen. I want it to stop, but it won't stop. I want it to go away. Let's see here. We've got, 484230. Specialized freight, trucking, long distance, transportation, and warehousing. Let me update the search. So again, guys, for this one, we're talking for Wayside, we're talking trucking, freight transportation. So any of our truckers out there, our freight people, this is for you. We've got 1.1 billion for the Army. Or wait. Let me go back to I was still in the sub agency. We've got 1.4 billion. I kind of just gave the goods away on that. 1.4 billion for the DoD. 137 million for the Department of Energy. So we've got the Department of Energy making a show on the top 3 list, it looks like. So Department of Energy, and then we also have DOJ. So also a new agency. Department of Justice at 14 million, not huge necessarily, but not bad. Maybe you didn't know. You said the DoD does a lot, and you are correct, my friend. The DoD does do a lot. The DOE and maybe even the DOJ might be something to consider. Let's break up that DoD though. So hopefully this will be valuable to you. The Army, as I already gave away, 1.1 billion. So of the 1.4 billion, 1.1 billion is coming out of the Army. So we can basically just say the Army is the one that's buying. It's the agency that's buying the most of this freight and trucking NAICS code. But number 2 is U.S. Transcom. The U.S. Transportation Command, U.S. Transcom, is the transportation command. So it makes sense that they would be buying trucking, freight, logistics under this NAICS code, right? So U.S. Transcom is another sub-agency within the DoD. I believe it's Air Force, because I did business with U.S. Transcom at Scott Air Force Base. That's why I say that. And that's in Illinois. So U.S. Transcom and they've got money too. Like, they've got money. Air Force they have money. Unlike some other agencies, the Air Force, they've got nice facilities. They've got nice contracts. They've got nice stuff. So U.S. Transcom, maybe do some research on that Wayside. And then the DOE, Department of Energy, and then the DLA. So I would say, why not start with those top 4? Army, U.S. Transcom, Energy, and DLA, logistics. So that's what I would say for those. Thanks for giving the example, Wayside. Oh, the jump. We've got the jump. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Thanks for hanging out today from the jump. I really appreciate your support for the channel. Thanks for hanging out. Not necessary, but support for the channel is greatly appreciated. So thank you so much for the super sticker again. Thank you. Stacy. All right. Stacy gave us, she's got a NAICS code for me now. 541430. This will be, looks like this will be the last one for the day for the NAICS code examples. So 541430. 541430. And that's for graphic design. So any of you graphic design folks, let me take off the last one. As you can probably see, this damn thing is still downloading. Berwin, it's still downloading if you're watching. It's going to take a while to download. So if you try to do this, don't be in a rush. Looks like it's going to take a while to download. So, so for Stacy, we've got graphic design. Let me jump back to the agencies now. So this one looks a little bit closer to like what we had for Dwayne's, where the first one was DoD, and it's huge, of course, 312 million. But the descending agencies after that almost make up a full top 10s list because they're all, pretty decent. They're pretty decent. Number 2, we have Health and Human Services. So HHS, Homeland Security, DHS, Department of Interior again, and the Department of Transportation. But let's look at the sub-agencies. And then after this, guys, I showed you the sub-agencies tool, but I will show you one more tool. So, don't run away right as soon as I finish this next code. Stick around for a few more minutes because there's just a few more things I want to show you. I want to show you this time feature right here, and then this map feature because I skipped over those. We started out at table, and then we went right to categories. So I want to show you, so after this video is over, whether you're watching right now live or on replay, so that you can add those to your little practice that you're going to do on your own. But again, for Stacy, looking at these sub-agencies for graphic design, Army by far, right? Army by far, 220 million. And then the Navy, we have 40 million. So, really no comparison, right? So Stacy, the Army is huge for this, followed up by the Navy. We also have Border Patrol, Border Customs and Border Protection, CBP. Number 4 is the Air Force. Again, like Dwayne's example, these are all pretty decent. So it looks like you have some options. Take some personal inventory, geography, and whatever strategies and variables you're using as part of your GovCon strategy, Stacy, to consider, hey, you can do this with the VA. You can do this with the Air Force. These are all pretty good. Department of State. But definitely the Army and the Navy definitely give some consideration for these graphic design services. So hope that helps. Thank you for that, Stacy. Wayside says, thanks for all the help. Hey, you got it, Wayside. Thanks for hanging out with us. So now, the last thing that I wanted to show you guys today is these other 2 examples. If you come over from, remember, we started with this, right? We started with this table, this data. I said there's a bunch of company names and contracts and start dates and end dates. That's where we started. And then we just skipped over to categories. We'll come back to these 2 middle ones that I just jumped over. The first one is time. So this time chart shows you how much, let me fix that, how much spending for this NAICS code based on year, okay? So how much of this NAICS code is being bought? So this helps you see seasonality. It helps you see fiscal changes from one year to another year. This is not necessarily focused on the agency, but it's focused on time. So we go back as far as 2008, and then you can see 2021 here on the map is small because the year just started at the time of us recording this. 2009 was the biggest year, however, for this, this is Stacy's NAICS code still, graphic design services. 2009 was huge. And for whatever reason, it basically, the buying for this NAICS code got cut in half over the last, 10 years or so. You can see that it did not reach this 100 million peak at all from 2008 and 2009. I don't know what the reason for that, maybe there was less like automation and less tools at the time. And nowadays it's much easier to do graphic design because there's more like software and things that people can do. And maybe the government does it in-house, so they're not buying as much of it. There's a number of ways that you can look into it. Also, like wartime, oftentimes purchases and procurements will go up for certain NAICS codes, like, the ammunition one that we looked at, for example. You could see a lot more ammunitions being bought during wartime, right? So you have to look at historical events when you're looking at time and try and create some sort of theory around your NAICS codes, what's going on. This doesn't necessarily affect you directly, but it's good to know, especially if you have something that's a constant, descending slope. You can just see maybe like it's a dying industry or a dying NAICS code. That would be kind of interesting to know, to say, hey, I better get into something else because they're buying a much less and less of this year after year, right? So this gives you potentially that type of feedback. And then we also have map. So there's this geographic map which shows density buys, density spending. So you can see the dark areas, the darkest areas, based on this color coding chart here, does the most spending, and then the lightest areas have the least amount of spending. So this is pretty self-explanatory, I think, and you will probably find the most dense areas around Washington, D.C., because that's where most of the procurements are bought, and then the work is done throughout the country. There's just a huge amount of procurement over in D.C. and the surrounding states, Maryland and Virginia, right? So this map here is also available for you, as well as this time chart. I really like the time chart because I like to kind of be a nerd and try and figure out what happened over time to affect the slope here, right? So you can do that for any NAICS code, just like we did in all the searches. Ryan says, looks like Ryan's giving us one more. Hey, GovKid, love the vids. I want to do auto parts 336112. Okay, I will run that really fast for you, Ryan. And then we'll start to wrap it up here. 336112. Hey, if you guys enjoyed the video today, hit that like button if you haven't. I would appreciate that, showing up more searchable on YouTube so others can find us. So thanks for hanging out with me today. So we got to hop back over to categories. We're running this for Ryan for light truck and utility vehicle manufacturing. Almost 11 billion for DoD and 4 billion for GSA by far. So I would not call this a top 10 list. I would easily call this a top 2 list. GSA and DoD, Ryan, is where it's at for what you're looking for under this particular NAICS code. And more specifically, you're looking at the Army. Another two new things here. We've got the Federal Acquisition Services, FAS. So FAS is buying a lot, 4 billion. And then also U.S. Special Ops Command. Let me see. Yeah, U.S. Special Ops Command in third place with 716 million. So Ryan, I would say Army, FAS, and then the Special Ops Command. If you didn't know about those, I would say start doing a little bit of research because they're buying a whole lot of what you're trying to offer. So hopefully that helps. So I think that'll be it for the examples. I'll come back to you now. Berwin says, LOL, sorry about that. No, you're good, man. I didn't know I was going to take that long either. I think it's helpful for everybody to see that you can download it if anybody wants to do that. So thanks for the suggestion. I wonder if there's any coincidence in the fact that most of the buying spending is after the primary election cycle. It could, Berwin, and kind of like what I was saying, I kind of like to read into these things and talk about or just think about myself, maybe do some research to see what are some of those cyclical type things, whether it's like you said, the election cycle or war or anything, technological advancements, things that came out within the last decade that are affecting the life cycle of a particular NAICS code, of a particular good or service that the government is buying, right? Because this stuff is really, it's pretty intuitive and pretty, common sense. You could figure it out if you just think about it. So that's a good point. I would say, it's possible, especially for certain NAICS codes. Steve, thanks for hanging out with us today. And Ryan, thank you so much. Absolutely. So I hope you found this live training to be helpful, whether you're watching right now live, guys, or on replay. This is like one skill. Like there's so many skills that are helpful for you to learn. And there's just a few that can really be super effective though. And this is one of them. I say if you only have a few sets of skills that you have in your toolbox, this should definitely be one of them because it's like a safe place. When you're bidding on stuff, say you're getting, a little bit down, demoralized, you're not getting traction or whatever, you can fall back on something like this and say, well, damn it, like they buy the most of this. So I know I'm not doing that wrong. Like this is something that like a sanity check, I call it. Well, like, I'm in the right place. and is it the right time? Is there a lot of contracts on the street right now, or is it like November where there's crickets, right? Because you can't beat yourself up if you're trying to bid on contracts in November, the first quarter, the slowest time of the year, right? So you got to be at the right place and at the right time, and you got to do the right things, and then you got to do them, all continuously throughout the whole year. And that's exactly what I put together in the program. I'm going to start talking about it a little more now because I am just about finished recording it. God, it's taken probably more than 9 months, but it's over 70 to 80 lessons, guys. I think I got them all edited and everything like that. But I would say within the next 30 to 60 days, I'm going to open enrollment. But don't worry, before then, I'm going to be talking about it a whole lot more. I'll have some teasers. I'll be letting you know what the program consists of, who's a good fit for it, and what the program does not have in it, and who it's not a good fit for, because it's not a fit for everybody. But yeah, so the program next 30 to 60 days, I'm still leaving myself a little leeway because I don't want to basically miss the launch date. So more to follow on that. But, doing all these things right, doing all the right things at the wrong time does not work. You got to do all the right things at the right time. And that's why most people seem to struggle. Today's skill set, finding the agencies that buy the most of what you're trying to sell is just the starting point. There's a lot of other things to build on from that. But if you have this, you can go to sleep good at night, rest assured that you're building on a strong and solid foundation, following the money, trying to sell popsicles to people that have a strong track record of buying popsicles is probably a really good start versus going to somebody who's bought one popsicle over the last 10 years and trying to sell them a popsicle, right? Like that's literally what this boils down to what we're talking about today. I'd rather go to somebody that's bought a lot of what, the thing I'm trying to sell versus like one or two or just a couple. So I hope that's overly and abundantly clear. So guys, Monday, last housekeeping item here. Monday, we have another awesome interview for you. Again, Ron, one of our community members. So happy to have him. He just got over COVID. So, he's a very strong guy. Came from humble beginnings. Ron basically started out as a mortgage broker, self-employed. Ended up doing like house flipping, got a general contractor license, parlayed that over a 10-year period into getting into government contracting, getting his service disabled vet certification. We talk about that in the interview. And then he won, multiple, multi-million-dollar contracts in construction with his small GovCon business. So we've got a thinking big, humble beginnings interview coming up for you on Monday morning, something for you to look forward to over the weekend. Guys, if you like government contracting and you have not yet subscribed to the channel, consider doing so because GovCon videos is all that we do. As so many of you know, we do live trainings, we do a lot of interviews lately, and then just a lot of helpful tips and tricks to get into GovCon and how to be effective and win that first contract. If you haven't yet liked this video, go ahead and hit that like button. I would appreciate it. It helps us to show up a heck of a lot better in the search results because God knows we need to get more views and more likes and more subscribers because we've got a lot of really great content. And more importantly, we have a really awesome and growing community here for folks to realize, hey, you don't have to do this by yourself. You don't have to do government contracting on your own. Like there's a lot of us that are, doing that, as a community. And if we have somewhere that we can come together, at least we don't feel so alone. Or if we're having a downtime, we have places that we can come to and ask questions, at least leave hopefully a little bit more energized than when we came. So I think that will do it for today, guys. Have a great weekend. Vincent says, thanks, DJ. Good. Again, very helpful. Thanks so much. Steve says, last interview was amazing. Thanks again for that. Yeah, the last interview was really awesome. Big thanks to Keisha again for doing that interview. Guys, if you didn't see it, interview with the contracting officer, and she's so much more, financial budget specialist. She's got a great set of expertise. Check out that interview if you have not. Keisha, our most recent interview. And again, another great one coming in just a couple days now, Monday morning. So watch for that. So again, have a great weekend, guys. And, we will talk to you soon. Take care.